Good morning and welcome to the Motorsport Coaching Podcast, Tricia.
Thank you very much for having me.
I'm really excited to have you on this. Something a little bit different today as part of our International Women's Day, but we're making it into a month. Let's hear about your story. I'm so excited. So how did you get started in motorsport?
Well, my dad, I come from a family of 4 older brothers. I'm the youngest and the only girl. My dad's been involved in all sorts of motorsport all his life, back in the late 60s, where he used to compete in rallies down around Brisbane and things like that. And then, so actually none of my brothers really took up anything to do with motor racing. It all skipped to me. So I started probably in my late teens, and I was just out at Morgan Park Raceway at Warwick. So I live in Toowoomba, in southern, southwest Queensland. And so I started out there and I'll share, Dad had a Mark II Cortina. And so I was just sharing the car with him and doing some sort of sprint laps type thing out at Morgan Park. And then moved on to doing like hill climbs and a sprint, various around southeast Queensland, southwest Queensland. Back in the mid 90s, there was a lot of mid to late 90s, a lot of like street sprints. So we get involved in all that. And that's how I sort of started getting involved in it, and always been one of those kids, always went to Bathurst with Dad when I was 7 years old. Watched the V8s on TV, well, what they call the V8s now, but of course it was a bit different back then, the touring cars and that. Always watched them on TV, always watched Bathurst, all that sort of thing. So always interested in motorsport. And then I met my husband back in 2002 at the Leeburn Sprints, which I'll talk to you about in a minute. And so we then built, after we met, he's got an XY Falcon that he did the same thing, like hill climbs, sprints, that kind of stuff. And then we built my own Mark I Escort. So I started racing that for a number of years. Oh. So that's how I kind of got involved.
Wow. So it's funny that how your brothers didn't pick it up.
No, well, my youngest one, who's still like older than me, but my youngest one does do a little bit now. He's got a Mark II Escort. So he goes and does a couple of different things. But yeah, that's about it.
What do you love about motorsports?
I don't know. Well, I mean, there's plenty of things, but obviously the adrenaline. You still get that bit of adrenaline as you start to go out on the track. You forget about it pretty quick, but unless you're actually racing with somebody and having a really good tussle, then it comes back. But I think, don't know, just the competitiveness and the fact that, well, talking about women and whatever, women can be, it's an equal playing field. It's not like athletics or whatever, where honestly we aren't as strong as the men and whatever. So there is definitely a difference, but it's not when it comes to motorsport. And also I think just everyone that we race with and whatever, it's our extended family. We might not see them in between times, but every time we're at the track together, it's like you've never left.
Friends, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Like catch up with your best friend. You don't have to see them every day or talk to them every day.
No, that's right.
Like nothing.
And you have a very obviously you have a mutual passion. And some other friends is like, you don't talk to them about motorsport because they'll like stare off into the distance. So it's good to have those people around that you can talk about.
You've got different groups of friends. You've got your
exactly
your coffee mums, you've got your gym mums, and your sport mums.
And never the two shall meet.
So you're currently racing the Trans Am Racing.
Yes.
Yeah, so tell us about that.
So it's Australian Trans Am. It's primarily Queensland-based series, but it's American cars, so they've got to be American two-door vehicles from 1964 to 1972, I think it is. So I have a 1968 Mustang. There's basically 2 categories within the series. So the 5-litre and 6-litre, it's or classic and outright, or no, trophy, I think it's called. So I race in the 5-litre, so I have a 5-litre engine in my car. So there's, any point in time, there might be anywhere up to 18, 19, 20 cars on track. I'm the only female. So I started racing in 2015 because my dad started racing in it. And then once he started doing that, my husband and I, and my dad, mainly my dad and my husband were conspiring to get me a car. And anyway, then I remember one night, my dad and my husband, Jamie, were on the phone to each other for a long time. And then he was outside and he came back into the house. He goes, "We've just bought you a Mustang." I was like, okay, great. Cool.
Fantastic.
So my husband's a race car like mechanic, so he builds engines and stuff like that. So he does all the work. So 100% of the work he does it. And it started back in 2015.
So you truly live, eat, and breathe motorsports.
Yes, we do.
That's fantastic. So what I'm hearing is that you probably haven't come through the normal routes of progression, starting a grassroots academy or anything, that you've pretty much just started.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, and to be honest, like my mum and dad didn't really have the money when I was younger. Like dad always said that he wished that he could have started me earlier and started that progression a bit earlier. But it is what it is. That will come from farm. They were farmers and they just didn't have a hell of a lot of money. So, you know, when I got to like 16, 17, 18, got to the point where mum and dad could actually do a little bit more. And so then we started in a cheap form of doing the sprints and stuff like that. And yeah, it is what it is. It doesn't matter. Like, you know, I do it for fun. Sure. I do get competitive on the. I do get competitive on the track, but overall, it's for fun.
I was about to say, you did just mention that you are the only female in the category.
Yeah.
So are you just like one of the boys, or do they pick on you? Or just
it's funny.
Helmets on.
It's funny. They don't pick on me, but they certainly don't give me any allowance at all. So I am on the track like I am one of them. They don't go, oh, there's Tricia, I'll look after her. No, none like that. On the whole, they're great. They treat me completely equally. There's probably one or two that when I'm beating them, you can tell that they're really struggling to keep like the chauvinistic side of them at bay. But I just tease them anyway. So, but on the whole, it's like, what do you say? What were you going to say? You're going to say something, weren't you? No. So anyway, but on the whole, they're good bunch of blokes, and all their wives, and my husband says they're cheering me on. All the wives they don't care about the husbands; they're cheering me on. So
that's what women do. We all support each other.
Yeah, exactly.
It is not.
Exactly.
Not a normal race meeting weekend. Are there other female competitors? You mentioned obviously not in your direct category, but on the
So normally like our main areas we race are Lakeside, north of Brisbane, and Queensland Raceway. So there's obviously all categories over the weekend. There might be Hyundai Excels, or there might be production cars, or the QTCC, which is Queensland Touring Car Championship, things like that. So there's a couple of girls in amongst through it. There might be 150 competitors, and there might be 2 or 3, maybe 4 girls amongst the whole lot. So over all the categories.
And from your experience, have you seen that amount grow over time?
Not really, to be honest. Like, I've been involved, for a long time. I mean, for over 20 years in all kinds of motor racing scenes, and it's always been about that same amount. To be honest, it hasn't really grown that much, but I'm hoping that definitely go-karting, and that I think they're starting to build up a bit more. And I think that it gets to, actually I was talking to a guy from Motorsport Australia the other day, and he said about when they get their late teens, that's when it's crunch time, whether they keep going or they dump it all because they're going to uni, or they found boys instead, or whatever. Or they can't.
That's not a gender thing.
Or they get to 18 or whatever, and their parents say, well, look, if you want to keep going, you're going to have to start funding it yourself. So it's that late teens that I think that it's really make or break, whether they keep going, whether it's in a more professional capacity, or just more or keep it as fun, or they just drop it. So hopefully more and more people just keep it up, even if it's just for fun. It doesn't have to be for a career of choice or anything like that. It can just be fun.
You did the weekend warrior.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, for people to try and make a career out of it, particularly women, I mean, even for men, it's a hard slog to try and make a career out of motorsport. There's only a few elite that actually manage to do it, so.
This is a little bit political. Sorry, but what's your other thoughts about, I don't even know what her name is now, but Miss Jenner racing.
Caitlin Jenner, yeah.
I was like, hey, I was going through all the Jenner names, and I was like, oh, come to me.
Caitlin. Yeah. I shared that post on Facebook. So it was to that Racing Chicks Network community, I think it's called. And I said, it doesn't matter what you think of this person. I think it's actually going to be great for the sport in terms of it definitely brings star power, definitely brings
publicity, but
absolutely. I in a way, and I don't 100% think this, but 90% think any publicity is good publicity. But I think she's quite passionate, and when he was a race car driver, so himself, so he raced in lots of different things.
Like he's an Olympian.
I know.
So it's like he's very athletic. Well,
very athletic. Yeah, very. Yeah.
And yeah, again, I don't know like too much of like she's had the whole surgery or whatever, but yeah, I think it's going to be quite interesting. I'm all for it. But I think a few years ago there was the AFL player down here, and the guy was wanting her to play in the AFLW league, and she wasn't allowed to because of the testosterone levels. And
that's right.
Like that. So I know it's a little bit different because we don't do that.
She, Caitlin. Oh God, it's so bad because you don't know what to say. But she's not racing.
Oh, okay.
Like, it's only owning the team.
Oh, okay. Again, yes. I just saw it flash through on my Facebook this morning.
Because there's lots of comments I read on Facebook yesterday on Speed Cafe and whatever, and said, "Oh, well, that can't be right, like racing and whatever." And it's like, no, read the article. Caitlin Jenner's only going to own the team, not race it. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's a whole different.
Yeah.
Oh, now we're talking about categories. Like, as you know, you've been around for like 20 years. There's so many categories when it comes to motorsports. You're just mentioning off air that you've got a niece that's starting out with the XLs. I think that's one of the fantastic, grassroots categories.
Yeah, she's 15 now, so she started go-karting when she was probably I think 8 or 9. She started go-karting and did a couple of different state titles and Central Queensland titles, and then she bought herself a little Mitsubishi Lancer. Front wheel drive, and she was doing a little bit of Motorcana with that. And now they've just purchased her. Actually, it's Jet Johnson's XL. So it's undergoing a paint job right this minute, and she's her first race at Morgan Park around the 19th, 20th of March. So yeah, so that's she's doing that, and then she's the very following weekend she's going back to Morgan Park at Warwick and starting the Queensland XL Championship.
What?
So. Yeah, so she's 15. She's very excited to be moving up to the next category.
Yeah, I think it's great for so many reasons. Obviously, there are a lot of young ones getting into that series, for them to be able to improve their road training and stuff. So, and I think a lot of them do end up working a lot more on the cars, and so a more good go around about actually fixing a car as opposed to having that mechanic doing all the work for them. So it's
exactly
skill set as well going forward. Tricia, how have you gone finding sponsorship over the time? Do you get sponsors, or are you just self-funding your racing?
Well, I got 2 businesses sponsor me, and they're both mine. No, I've had little bits of help over the time. I had a bit of a sponsorship there last year, and also people giving me sort of free stuff, in exchange for a sticker on the car, like, get a wheel alignment done, or get a sticker on their car for the steering and suspension place and whatnot. But it is difficult. I'm not the kind of person to go out and seek sponsorship. But also, I know this sounds bad, but I'm 41, be 42 on International Women's Day.
That's right. Yeah.
Yes. So, to be honest, I always jokingly say it. Why would you go and sponsor a 40-year-old woman when you got so many other opportunities?
You should look at it like that, but that's okay.
I know.
I'll talk to you off air about it.
But I'm pragmatic. But yeah, no, it'd be awesome to have more. But then I know, my niece Stevie, which is my husband's biological niece, I'm married into family. Where she's starting to get a few opportunities together and things like that. People are coming out of the woodwork, and I've been sending her some stuff about other things and whatnot. And the thing is too, I suppose, with sponsorship, and I know it sounds really bad, but I'm so busy with my life, with everything I do, and when you have sponsors, then it's like another level of that you have to do, like commitment and responsibilities to that sponsor.
Correct.
To do things for them or whatever. And it's like, my God,
So when you're not at a racetrack, you're not running 2 businesses. And
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
You were the president of the historic Leeburn Sprints.
Yes.
What's that?
Okay, so it's quite a big event. So it's held once a year in August. Leeburn is where I grew up, and it's a little farming community, about 45 minutes southwest of Toowoomba on the southern Darling Downs. So there's about 350 people living in the whole town, and we close the whole town down and we race the streets. And we have about 15,000 people turn up to watch. So, once a year. So it's a volunteer committee, and I'm the president of that. My mum and dad actually started it back in 1996 was the first one. And it's commemorating. So Leeburn actually hosted the 1949 Australian Grand Prix on an old wartime airstrip just outside Leeburn Township itself. So, it started as a commemoration for that Australian Grand Prix. And so 25 years later, we're still going strong.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, so it takes hundreds of my hours.
I can hear that passion, though. It's very rewarding.
Yeah. Well, you don't do volunteer stuff if you don't love it, you know.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And do you get enough volunteers for the event? Is it one of those events people are
really
just pouring to come and participate in the history of it and stuff?
Really good, actually. So we got a really good committee. I'm the youngest of the committee, but anyway. So I do a lot of the not bookwork because I'm not the treasurer, but like I do a lot of all the management plans. I meet with Motorsport Australia. I do a lot with sponsors, so doing all that. So I do a fair chunk. But when it comes to actually setting up the event and stuff like that, we have people. A few years ago, we were sort of struggling to get people on the ground because there's a lot of actual physical setup. We've got to put tire barriers and hay bales around all the streets and all that sort of stuff because it's got to meet our track license conditions. But now we just get people coming out of the woodwork going, we want to be part of this. We want to help because they just love the event so much. We got competitors that turn up a week early just so that they can help to set up and to pull down the event and stuff like that. They love it. So it's really good. And
so there's specific cars?
So it's primarily historic. So we have anything from like 1920s through to today. So we have fifth category historic is like our key goal, and logbook historic vehicles. But then we have invited cars. So, if anyone has like a brand new Lamborghini, we're not going to knock them back because it's something that you don't see a lot, but all the way through up to tin tops, so, all the Monaros, Falcons, obviously escorts, and even some, we have special categories for invited forward drives. So we have some, WRXs and things like that. So we have around about, we oversubscribed every single year. So unfortunately we have to kick a few out. But if you're going to turn up in your everyday Commodore that you drive to work or something, you won't get accepted. And that's one of the first cars that will get kicked out because we have to, when I say kicked out sounds bad, but we have to keep it to a manageable level because, so we try to work around that 190 entrants because it's time sprint. So you race against the clock. And we try to give, the more cars we have, the less times you get to go out. Yeah. And you want the competitors to have bang for their buck too. They pay their money to enter, and if they only get 3 or 4 runs, well, you're not. We aim for 7 or 8 runs, and if they only get 3 or 4, obviously I don't blame them for being a bit cranky about it. So we try to keep it around that 190. But of course, we always say to them too, is that you guys, it's in your hands how many runs you get. Don't have accidents. Yeah. Because every time you have an accident, it holds us up. There's 10, 15 minutes gone or whatever. So stop having accidents and we'll fly through it all.
It's the finish line.
Come on. Judge what your own, what your own talent is. Don't go past it.
Tricia, you've actually been doing motorsports for over 20 years, which is fantastic. One of the other great achievements you've had is being on the board of Women of Motorsports, on the committee. Back then called WAMS. What was your role on the committee?
Oh, well, no, I was just a committee member. So I applied I can't even remember how I found out about it actually, because it was quite a few years ago. But so, so we, I just applied because so was WAMS because it was a subsidiary of CAMS. And it was great. We had a broad spectrum from grassroots through to sort of more top level. And it was just about supporting those women and just trying to get that, get that message out about women and try to support them and create like a bit of a community for women in motorsport. So that's now defunct. Because anyway. So, but they have a Women in Motorsport Commission now. So
and we've got Girls on Track too.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. That was coming in sort of as WAMS was phasing out. So Yeah.
So you're really passionate about women in motorsports, or love that networking community. What else do you enjoy about women in motorsports?
I just like the fact that, like I said earlier, that it's a motorsport is probably one of the only real sports that everyone is equal. You know, like biologically, it doesn't matter. We are equal. So it's just about getting out there and having a go. And I think, and I do think majority, and I know we touched on it before, majority of men are very supportive of women in motorsport. Yeah. I think they love it. And except when you start beating them, they go, oh, you know, I love you being here, but I'm not really sure about loving you beating me. But anyway. No, I just think it's a whole, my mum, who's passed away now, not that she was ever, she was definitely heavily involved in motorsport, you know, supporting dad, and she was the inaugural president of the Leeburn Sprints, and so she was always there, very supportive, but she was also the mayor of the local council. She was involved in all sorts of different boards and committees and whatnot, and also, as well as running the farm.
See where you get it from.
I know, like a chip off the old block. Absolutely. So she was always one of those women. And I remember I had to write a story about mum after she passed away for Speed Cafe. And they said to me, you know, asked me a few questions. So that gave me a bit of a nudge so I could write this article for them. And they obviously cleaned it up and whatever. Yeah. And I said, the thing was, mum never ever said to me, she never ever said the words, women can do anything. Like, I don't remember actually ever saying those words, but just leading by her example was, you can do anything. So that's what I think, what's so good about motorsport.
Yeah, and just one last thing, I guess, we have lots of mums of probably drivers that are listening to the show and kind of think, you know what, I like volunteering and I like being on this side, but how can I get onto the other side? Obviously, you mentioned that you're a little bit older. What kind of advice have you got for those that are thinking of maybe having a go or started?
Well, there's so many these days. There's so many different things that you can go out, like, you know, join a club, join a local club, whatever it might be, wherever you are situated. They and join a club that will have they have them all over Australia. You know, try days basically. Yeah. In, you know, all you got to do is bring your car, bring your helmet, and you can have a go. And then have a look around what category you like, you know, what sort of strikes you. Is it go-karting, or is it excels, or is it just like doing like Leeburn Sprints? Like, it's easy to have, you know, an old Cortina or something like that. I can tell I'm a Ford person, but anyway. Yeah, an old Cortina or something like that. And you can go anywhere and do anything. And you don't have to go for any medicals. You can run of a level 2, at least to call it level 2 speed. I'm not sure what it's called now. But anyway, which is one of the lowest things. You just need to join a car club, join Motorsport Australia, and you can go racing. And if you want to go more high level like I do, well, yes, it's a bit more financial commitment and whatnot, but certainly starting out, just have a go. And obviously, hopefully, you know, I'm not saying this because women can do anything, but if you have a supportive husband and whatnot, because it is obviously a bit daunting if you were just to rock up by yourself. But yeah, just try and find someone that you know, join a car club, look around, see what car clubs are offering those kind of, you know, drive what you brung kind of thing, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Drive and drive.
Yeah, exactly. So there's all sorts of things, like, I don't know, because obviously I'm in Queensland. Down at Norwell, you know, you can go and hire a Toyota 86 and with an instructor, and they take you around, all that kind of thing. There's so many opportunities.
Yeah, and I think there's also lots of networking as well. So
yeah,
there's always places to go if you're unsure about questions or not sure. And I'm pretty sure Motorsports Australia has a list of come and try days as well.
Yes,
when around Australia, when available. So just to check them out.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me today. I love hearing about your story. Yeah, blown away. Very good. And
no worries.
I do know what the sprints are. So I was like, yeah, I think it was because just the way it was spelled.
Oh, that's all right. That's okay. Everyone gets it wrong.
Thanks again for joining us for today. I appreciate your time.
No worries.
2022.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you.
No worries.
So